In this course, you're going to use the Ubuntu operating system, and the version we're going to use is the 20.04 version, which is also called Focal Fossa. If you do not have the Ubuntu 20.04 installed on your computer, you don't have to worry. You can still use the Ubuntu 20.04 in different ways. There are different ways to install Ubuntu on your computer. You can install Ubuntu alone on your computer as the only operating system on your computer. Also, you can install Ubuntu using WSL2 called Windows Subsystem for Linux too. There are other methods, and one of them also is to use Ubuntu alongside Windows. So you can dual boot your computer and then choose which one you want to install. But in our own case, I'm going to show you how you can install Ubuntu on a virtual machine. So if you have a Windows computer, like Windows 10 or Windows 11, and then you also have an OS X, like a Mac computer OS X, so you can also install Ubuntu alongside your OS X. So you will just install a virtual machine, and then you will also install Ubuntu inside the virtual machine. So let us quickly do that. The first thing you're going to do is to go install the download Virtualbox. So you can just type virtualbox.org. Okay. So when you get to Virtualbox, you click on download Virtualbox 6.1. So then you can now choose your host computer. In our own case, our host computer is Windows host. So when you click on Windows host, then you can start downloading. Okay, so I'm just going to cancel this now because I have it already on my computer. Okay, so after downloading the Virtualbox, the next thing we want to do is to download Ubuntu. Remember, we are using Ubuntu 20.04. So to download Ubuntu 20.04, you just gonna press releases.ubuntu.com/20.04. Okay, so it's going to take you to the Focal Fossa 20.04 long-term support, and then you can click on the 64-bit PC desktop image, and then after clicking on it, it's going to start downloading. So I'm going to cancel it now because I also have that already. Now that we have the necessary files downloaded, the next thing is to start installation. So I'm going to close this right now, or minimize, and then I'll go to where my file is under downloads, and I have the Virtualbox. So you can click on the Virtualbox, okay. So we're trying to install the Virtualbox. Next, okay, just next. Everything is okay. All right, so the Virtualbox installation is done. I can launch it from here. Okay, so this is the Virtualbox. I'm gonna click OK. Now, the first thing you want to do when you have the Virtualbox is to set up your Ubuntu. So to set up Ubuntu, you click on New. And then after New, you want to give your Ubuntu computer a name. So I'm just going to call it Ubuntu 20.04. It's Linux, and then it's Ubuntu. Yeah, so everything's fine. You click on Next. So this is where you allocate memory. So my computer here is a 16 gig memory, and then I can decide to, give it like 8 gig or so. Yeah, I think something like this is okay. So this is like 8 gig memory. So if your computer is 8 gig, you can give it like 6 gig, and I think that should be fine. Or you give it like maybe 5 or 4 gig. Okay. Now, these ones are default. Just click create. Okay, VDI, next, and then dynamically allocated, next. So here is where we specify the space we want to give Ubuntu. According to the Ubuntu website, they recommended that you give it like 50 gig or so, but I'm just going to give it like 45 gig. I have 10 already, so I'm just going to give it like 45 or yeah, on my maybe 43. Okay, it's okay. So I'm going to click on create. So that memory is actually where your Ubuntu installation will be stored, and every other files on every other thing you do in Ubuntu. Okay, so if you don't have enough memory, you might want to delete some things in your computer, but it's recommended that you give it like 50 gig. Okay, so the next thing now is not to start Ubuntu. Don't start Ubuntu yet. We need to do some configuration. So you can go to settings. So under settings, under the general, let's go to advanced. And then we want to set this to bi-directional, and then drag and drop bi-directional. Okay. So this will help you when you're trying to copy files from your Windows to Ubuntu and you're trying to drag something. Okay. Oh, we're not done. Okay, I go back to the settings. So bi-directional. Okay, the next thing you want to do is to go to the system. So this computer, already we did this before, 8 gigs, so we don't need to touch this side. I'm just going to go to the processor. So this computer has 8 CPUs, so I can just, give it like 4 CPUs. Okay. If your computer is having 6 CPUs, you might want to, or maybe 4 CPUs, you might want to give it like maybe 3 or something. Okay, so this is fine. Then we go to storage, which is this one here. Then you choose empty. So under the empty, now look at the icon here. Okay, so this choose a virtual option disk. So this icon, you click on it, and then you choose or create a virtual optical disk. So this is where you choose your disk. All right, so our Ubuntu is inside downloads. So this is Ubuntu 20.04 desktop. So I'm just gonna click it. All right, and we have the Ubuntu here. So you can click choose, and then you click OK. Okay, so we are done with that. The next thing to do now is to click start to install Ubuntu. We have our Ubuntu 20.04 set up. We can click start to install Ubuntu. Still loading. So this is the focal fossa. I think focal fossa, I think, is an animal. So and it's this cat family, this cat family. Okay, now this is the installation process. So the next thing you want to do is just to choose English if you want it in English, and then you click on install Ubuntu. So after that, you choose your keyboard layout. I'm okay with English US. All right, so next, continue. Okay, so I'm going to choose the normal installation. And this one says download updates while installing Ubuntu. I do not want to download updates. If you choose download updates, it's going to take time using your computer network. So I do not want to download updates. We will do downloading of updates later. Okay, so I'm going to click install third-party software for graphics, and then continue. Okay, so it says this computer currently has percent. Erase disk and install Ubuntu. Now you don't have to be scared. Remember, we created our virtual machine space inside of a directory in your Windows. So it's not gonna erase anything. It's not gonna erase anything. So the next thing is to click on install now. All right, so this warning is just to show you that there's some changes that will be made to your disk. Okay, continue. Awesome. So to start the installation process, we need to do some other configurations. So because I'm here, I'm just gonna leave it this way, Lagos. Okay, so I can give my computer a name. I'm just gonna call it Reflect Robotics. Okay, password. Now you have to remember to be sure to put in a password you can remember. All right, good. So we can move on. And then the installation process has started. So you have to wait till the installation is completed. So virtual machine is a very great way of having another operating system on your own computer. So the way it works now is anytime you need to go to Ubuntu for this course, you just go to your virtual machine, and then when you get to the virtual machine, you open Ubuntu, and it's just going to open the Ubuntu operating system. So from the Ubuntu operating system, then you can access everything inside Ubuntu. Okay, so the installation has been done. We now need to restart. Now, when it says restarting, we're just talking about restarting the Ubuntu here. So just click on restart. Okay, so since we don't have any installation media to remove, we're just gonna close. Okay, now that we have installed Ubuntu, so let's launch the Ubuntu right now. So just make sure that your Ubuntu is selected here, and then you click on start. All right. So we're inside Ubuntu, and we just want to do some few things. Let's press your Control, Alt, and T on your keyboard. Oh, sorry, need to skip this. And let's skip this. All right. So can open the terminal with Control Alt T. So this is what we call the terminal. And we are going to install another type of terminal. This is the default Ubuntu terminal, also called Bash. So we're just going to install another terminal called Terminator. But to install Terminator, I always recommend that you do this first, that you update your system. So just do sudo apt update and then press enter. It's going to ask you for the password. So you put in your password again. So as you press the password, it's not going to show anything on the screen. So I think that's a kind of security level. So it's not going to show anything on the screen, but just know that as you're pressing, it's going on. And then if you want to erase the password, you can also use the backspace, although you will not get visual feedback, but it's working behind the scene. Okay, so update has been done. The next thing you want to do is called upgrade. So upgrade does not mean that it's going to make your computer the latest version, but it's just like it's going to install everything that updated as updated. Then it's going to install it this time. Now it's asking you, do you want to continue? It's going to use this memory space on your computer, 284. And then if you want to continue, just press Y for yes, and then you click on enter. Now that we've installed the update, let us install a tool called Terminator. So we're going to use Terminator instead of this our default terminal. To install Terminator, just type sudo apt. So we're going to add this repository, put in the password. Okay, so let's update again. So after the update, we will now install the Terminator. So to install the Terminator, you do sudo apt install Terminator. Okay, press yes to continue. Alright, so we now have Terminator installed. The next thing we want to do is when you make this big, maximize, you realize that your Ubuntu stays this way and it's very small. So you want to make it bigger. And then the next thing to do is to make it bigger. To do that, you just go to the devices here, and then you click on Insert Guest Addition CD image. Okay, it's going to ask you to run. Then you click on Run. Then put in your password. Okay, so press Enter. Alright, so the next thing we want to do now is to shut down. So now that we've shut down, let's open the computer again. You can even close these and then open your Virtualbox again. So we start Ubuntu. Okay, so what you want to do now is to go to View, and then you should see full screen mode. Okay, switch. Alright, so we now have it at a full screen mode. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now is to install ROS.